Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for all our participants and Mrs. En, you can start it.
Selamat sore Bapak Ibu dan rekan-rekan yang hadir pada sore hari ini. Sebelum memulai acara, izinkan saya untuk berbicara dalam bahasa Indonesia dan bahasa Inggris selama memandu acara. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The expert talk is going to start immediately. Before commencing the session, I would like to read the rules. To all participants, please activate your camera during the session while maintaining to mute the microphone. Please use the virtual background provided by the committee. The virtual background is available in the chat feature. And please fill the attendance form via the link that would be available in the chat feature during a discussion session. Ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu sekalian, we would like to initiate the session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon here in Indonesia and good morning to Dr. Ariadna in France. It is a great pleasure to welcome you to our expert talk, the first one in 2024. Today is Thursday, May 30, 2024. This event is organized by the Research Center for Ecology and Ethnobiology, National Research and Innovation Agency, BRIN. Today, we are going to engage in a very interesting topic about linking local and social knowledge to understand changes and challenges of marine invertebrate small-scale fisheries in Asia-Oceania. In this occasion, we are honored to welcome Dr. Anang Setiawan Ahmadi, SKH MSc, Head of Research Center for Ecology and Ethnobiology, BRIN, and our honorable speaker, Dr. Ariadna Burgos from the French National Research Institute for Sustainable Development, IRD, and all participants who have attended this expert talk. Ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu sekalian, please allow me to first read the agenda for today. First, we will have opening, and then the second one, we will have a welcoming remark from the head of Research Center for Ecology and Ethnobiology. And then the third one, we will have a presentation from our guest speaker, Dr. Ariadna. And then we will have photo session. And then after that, we will have a discussion. And after that, we will have like appreciation for the guest speaker and closing. Ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu sekalian, we will start the event with welcoming remarks from the head of Research Center for Ecology and Ethnobiology, Pak Dr. Anang Setiawan Ahmadi, SKH MSc. To Bapak Anang, time is yours.
Terima kasih, Bu En. Thank you very much for the time and screen. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, all the participants who have been joined in this first expert talk, which this noon we will have an expert and ready to share the knowledge, to share information, and also the topics related with I think this is maybe I may say marine ecology and also the local knowledge. And first, second, I would like to say thank you to Dr. Ariadna Burgos and for the time, and then for your kind to share your knowledge, information to all of us, and hopefully there will be a good opportunity in the future, and also we will very happy to open the collaborations in the future, and hopefully you still have a plan to do research and collaborations with researcher or scientists in Indonesia, especially related with your interests. And then this afternoon, Dr. Ariadna will present entitled Linking Local and Scientific Knowledge to Understand Changes and Challenges of Marine Invertebrate Small-Scale Fisheries in Asia-Oceania. I mean, so Indonesia will be included in the presentation, I think. But this will be very wonderful opportunity for us, and I think the participants also already wait for what you will share, and then hopefully this will be very useful opportunity, very useful information, and I think to shorten time, I officially opened the first expert talk in Research Center for Ecology and Ethnobiology, and then I give the time and screen back to Dr. N. Thank you very much and good afternoon.
Thank you, Pak Anang, for the opening remark. Ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu sekalian, without further ado, we would like to begin the presentation from Dr. Ariadna Burgos. But before the presentation, I will read her curriculum vitae. Let me introduce our guest today. I will share my screen. Okay, can you see my share screen? Yeah. Our guest speaker today is Dr. Ariadna Burgos. She is a researcher in ethnoecology, specialized in marine invertebrate artisanal fisheries, coastal livelihood, and marine resource management. As you can see here, she got her education from French National Museum of Natural History and also from the Université de la Réunion. And also she actually can speak like English, French, Spanish, and maybe a little bit of Indonesian language. And for her areas of work experience, she has been in Timor-Leste, Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, Vietnam, and many countries. She also has research and teaching experience, research and teaching interest in ethnoecology, indigenous people, small-scale fisheries, gender studies, and so many more. And her work experience, including now as a researcher from the French Research Institute for Sustainable Development, but she was also the postdoctoral fellow and also fishery planning analyst. And currently, she belongs to the scientific membership, as you can see here, International Scientific Coordination Network, International Laboratory Selamat, International Laboratory CEDES. And right now, she is also the editorial board for the Journal of Tropical Ethnobiology, also journal reviewer for Human Ecology, Journal of Ethnobiology, and so on. And other than research activities, she also has like voluntary work in many more, as you can see here. And also she got experience in oceanographic expedition, and she attended many international conferences, workshops, and seminars. I cannot read them all, but she also got so many awards, like the NG Prize 2019 and 2022. And she got a lot of project grants from 2023, 2015 to 2023. And she also got teaching experience in anthropology of conservation, ethnoecology, marine anthropology, and so on. I cannot read all of them, but I think by reading this curriculum vitae. Everyone cannot wait to hear your presentation. So let me stop share my screen. Okay, Dr. Ariadna, please, you can share your screen and begin your presentation. Now the time is yours.
Dear all, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this invitation. I'm very, very happy to share with you my research in Indonesia, in East Timor, and in Papua New Guinea. It's a pleasure for me to share this experience, which is interdisciplinary. So I'm from an ecological background, and then I did my PhD in ethnoecology. So with not further presentation, I think it will end. I already presented my CV. That was great. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for the invitation. So share screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, clearly.
Okay. Thank you. Well, my presentation today treats about linking local and scientific knowledge to understand changes and challenges of marine invertebrate small-scale fisheries in Asia-Oceania. It's I will present. Sorry, why this don't move? Oh yeah. So first of all, this picture I took it in Timor-Leste not long ago, like 1 year and ago, working with the kids and the adolescents who go fishing inside the ocean. But my work here and the presentation, I will present more about the people who fish next to the coast, close to the coast, not really fishing inside the ocean, but fishing, walking fishing, and who also target species, not only fish, but also crabs, sea urchins, sea worms, and mollusks such as bivalves, gastropods, and cephalopods. So marine invertebrates are an important phylum, and there are different species which are targeted for edible purposes, but also for ornamental purposes. For instance, the shells can be used, and we can see them selling in Bali to tourists. So there's a big movement of this species, not only for subsistence, but also as a tourism industry for collection. And there's many fisheries related to marine invertebrates. Indeed, marine invertebrates remain an historically neglected field of fisheries research. And this is a point that we will highlight. Why fisheries are mostly focused on fish and not in marine invertebrates? Why fisheries are mostly focused on men and not in women's fisheries? So this is the gender approach that I would like also to share with you. It's very interesting that when we walk around the island, around the coast, sorry, in the coastlines, we will remark that there are several amounts of shells around. And there are deposits which talk about the past uses of shells since prehistoric times. Actually, one of the most oldest engraving in the world, it's found from Homo erectus, not even Homo sapiens, sorry, from Homo habilis. I'm sorry, and this is very, very deep interaction between hominids, and so not only Homo sapiens, but other types of hominids, sorry, and in shells. Deep interactions into time that let us know the importance of this resource for humans and beyond. The work I want to present to you, it has been carried in Indonesia, in East Timor, in Papua New Guinea. In Indonesia, I did my PhD from 2010 to 2013. I went back in 2014 to see the communities. It was a mangrove ecosystem, we will see. Then I did a postdoctoral research, more still focused into shells and mangroves, but also opening to coral reefs. And now I'm working in East Timor under a Marie Curie Fellowship, also working with shells, still I open more to marine invertebrates. So I have, during my research, carried a interdisciplinary approach, linking anthropology approaches such as participatory observation, so working with the people directly on the field. Vernacular classification, so how the people classifies the environment, the species, carrying open interviews, questionnaires, focal groups. In ecology, I have worked more in species inventory and habitat characterization. In geography, working with landscape classification, toponymy, and geographical information systems, and with fisheries, working mostly with catch per unit effort surveys that I will show to you what it is, and market surveys. So let's go to Indonesia, to your place, and to my adoptive country, which I really have, how do you say, I owe a lot to the Indonesian people and to the Indonesian community, mostly from Mentawai and Siberut Island. So I got there because I was looking for a place which had three components. First, mangroves. Second, indigenous people. And third, that it was a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. That was the criteria I used to select this field work. And when I got there, I found out that the women were the main fishers from this community. Actually, men didn't go to fish. They were working in the mostly in the forests. They were breeding pigs. They were in other type of activities, but this was an activity mainly done by women. Fishing. They fish as well as other marine invertebrates and mostly shells, as you will see. So this is the beautiful Caturei Bay in Siberut Island. We are in the southern part of the island. I don't know if I put a specific map on that, but well, I am just talking about a locality which is in front of Padang, an island which is in front of Padang, Siberut Island. So as I say, again, women were the main users of the mangrove forest. They had different boats, and they always went individually, each one in each boat. When the woman met in the mangrove or in the bay, they won't ask to each other, "How are you doing?" The question that came every time was, "Where are you coming from?" That was the first question. And the second question was, "What did you catch?" So they spoke in Mentawai language. And here is the Bay of Siberut. So this is the southern part of the island. I'm sorry I didn't put like a better map of the island, but we are in the southern part. I hope so something I did because of this question, where are you coming from? Is that I start looking for all the local names, all the different localities. And this work was done with 3 different Suku clans, which I confirmed the name, that everybody was able to locate these different names, and they knew where they were. That was one of the things I did. And one of the other things I did is I went with 3 different people from 3 different clans in a boat, going everywhere, putting the local name of the place with GPS, which allowed me then to make this map. Here, sorry, is in French. And then I categorize these toponyms. So toponyms are place names. And I saw that most of the names were related to a resource, vegetable resource and mineral resource physiography. Sacred names, historical events, just names or names of animals or names of instruments. So when the woman met, it was easy for them to know, oh, where are you coming from? I'm coming from Malagay. So everybody knew she had been fishing here. And this will be important to understand dynamics, social dynamics of fisheries in this bay. These names gave them not only reference about the resources, where was situated a resource, not only because maybe the name of the resource was already not there, but to locate activities, to locate resources, and to be able to communicate where we meet. Okay, we will meet in Makalu. So everybody knew that we were meeting in this area. The other thing is that you have to think that this is a cut of the mangrove, yes? And here comes the river and the salinity. So this is the salinity. Here is the ocean. This is the mangrove that we find in front of the ocean. This is the mangrove that it's close to the ocean, but it's a little bit up. So we will find another type of species associated to this area. And this is more into a place where the salinity is less strong, so back at Dalam. And this is another area which the salinity is quite low, but still influenced by the tides, and is the area where they call Ledbai. So it was different, and this is the Berlumpur, the Sabuk area here. So I classified these areas with local people. I went to these different areas to see the type of forest, but I also did forestry surveys, which I survey the size, the diversity of species, and in different localities, and helped by a master student and with 2 local people from the place. But I will focus my presentation not on the mangrove, which was wonderful and was very interesting, but on the shells that were in those areas. So something that was very clear for them is that the shells that we find here in this area will not be the same shells that we find in this area, and it will be different from the ones that we find here. There are just a few that can travel throughout the different localities, which is this one. It's a litorina. So you could find them because she didn't live on the water. She lives on the leaves of the trees. So you could find litorina here, or litorina here, or litorina here. But most of the species were very specific to a certain locality of salinity, of soil context texture, and it was very difficult. For instance, this shell, which was here, absolutely never would be here inside. So species such as mollusks are highly specific to certain localities and very informed. We call them bioindicators. So I wanted to show to you the collection of one shell that it's called Australia corrugata and Anodontia philippiana. This is my adoptive mother, Ina Lucia. I live with her family. I was adopted by their clan. I had even a Mentawai name, which is Maneogok, and my clan was Samaonai. This is my professor from Indonesia. This is the woman who learned to do fish, to fish. It's a very important person in my life. So we are here in the place where sorry, there's some noises around. So we are here in the front of the mangrove, just right in front of the ocean, in a very high salinity place. These two shells are not found on the surface. They are deep down on the lumpur, on the mud. They bury deep in the mud. So in order to catch them, Ina Lucia and the other woman had to move her feet from the top, going down, going down, going down, until they were able to find the shell with the tooth. And they put the shell on top, and then they collected and they took out. So that was one of the activities they were doing. Another activity was more inside. This was megu. It's another type of collection, another type of shell collection that happens more inside. We're talking about this shell. So sorry, here in this locality, I found 13 different species. And the one that I want to present to you is Yellowina, these ones. So it's not so deep down on the mud, and it's located on top of the surface of the soil. So this one was also inside. Here we are walking. It's an activity that is done by different generation of women, old, younger, and what you see here, the wood that it's burning is called it's done to be to keep mosquitoes away and to be able to cook on the place while we travel with the boat. So the technique, and that was interesting also, is that they had specific names for the techniques for collection shells. So this was with the feet. And the feet, instead of moving from the top to down, as we saw for Sequoia, this one was from lateral movement. And we had to really be careful really with the type of with the wood that was there. So we could get hurt. And we can use also the hands to pick up these shells. But women could also walk and with the machete make lines on the mud, and they could, with the sound of the machete and the shell, they could recognize if it was telescopium, a species which they didn't really collect because it was too heavy and a little flesh. little meat inside, little flesh. And when they heard ting, the other type of noise, they would go down and pick up this shell. So the interest of the local names that allow me to make the abundance distribution of Cicoira and Megu and other species. So I asked to 68 women from my village from Sarasao, which was here. It was mostly all the women from the village who fish. I asked them, well, if we want to go look for Cicoira, what is the locality, the best locality that we can go? So as you see, 70 to 75% of the women answer Malagay is the best place to look for Cicoira. And that was the same for Megu, for the Yeloina. So I asked them, and if we want to look for Megu, what's the best place? It's Patmakalu. This is only an example of how we can link local names, local knowledge, and abundance distribution of species, linking local and scientific knowledge to make maps about the distribution and abundance of species according also to local knowledge. Let's go to Timor. So in Timor, I am carrying my research now in Timor, and I opened and went beyond the mangrove ecosystem to start looking for shells and other type of marine invertebrates in other type of ecosystems, such as seagrasses, coral reefs, sandy shores, rocky shores, and so on. So women fish a lot. And when you see the activities that women do, the type of fisheries that women do are completely different from those of men. It's not that men do not target these species. They do too, and they do gleaning, but not in the frequency that women do. And actually, they target less species than women. And another thing that is important to highlight is that most of the woman fisheries don't go to commercial or market. They go directly to the household for subsistence. So no, they are sometimes invisibilized in reports because it's not commercial fisheries. Well, this is this woman's catch. What we see here is seaweed, this little thing that I have not known what is. We see shells, we see fish, we see a diversity of species. This the sharing of knowledge happens from generation to generation. Kids are highly active in these fisheries, and it's not that it's tasky work, but it happens also in a good mood. It's also distractful, recreational. It's an activity which brings joy. So the research objectives in Timor-Leste was to assess the diversity, extent, and dynamics of marine invertebrate small-scale fisheries, and to identify ecological and social drivers of change, vulnerability, and sustainability. This is a Marie Curie fellowship. So I was living in Timor for the last 2 years, from 2022 to 2024. I came back to France in the beginning of the year, and now I'm doing my last year. I forgot to say that in the mangrove in Indonesia, I found 45 species which were consumed, of which half of them were bivalves and the other half were gastropods. In Timor-Leste, because I'm working in a coral, resilient coral area and mangroves, and I expanded to other types of ecosystems, I have found more or less 160 species only of shells that are consumed. So how does a gleaning catch look? Gleaning is the fact of looking for shells, for crabs in the littoral area. So a gleaning catch looks like this, as I showed you before. So we can see different type of shells, multi-specific crabs, lambis. So many gastropods. We can have an octopus and target one type of a species. We can have high diversity of this one, and this one might be the same. This is cephalopods again, so octopus. This is another type with tridagnas in catch in the area. What years are involved? Okay, so this is important to know that if many species can be catch with the hand, there are also tools used for collecting these fisheries. So we will have, for instance, this type of iron bars who help. We can have this. We can use knives and so on. These are the baskets that they use, but now they can use like plastic baskets. This is evolving. So here, instead of presenting a cut of the mangrove, I present to you a cut of the coral reef. So you have to imagine here is the coastal area, here on top are the houses and the vegetation, and here we start walking through going until the deep ocean. And you will see that mostly in the deep ocean is men who dive. It's not only men, sometimes women are involved, but let's say that it's highly frequently by men. Indeed, in the other area is woman who goes look for shells. And as I say, these type of activities are very specific. So this shell nerita also you will never find it here. This species is specific to this area. It comes out at night. Women know what is the best time to look for shells. And I have to say that gleaning or marine invertebrate fisheries in coastal areas is not an activity that happens every day. It's done with the low tide. It's done with the full moon or no moon when the tides are very important and very high and very low. Yeah. We will have another type of shell that you will find in a rocky area, gravelly area, which is mixed, which is a Saphis violacens. It's one of the rare species that I saw being sold in the market. So a woman will take it, and sometimes they will put it back down. That was very impressive to see. Actually, they will take it from one place, and then they like cultivate it in another place. They let it grow, and then they take it out, and they sell it. Kodachia tigerina is one species that we find in the seaweed, and it's sought after with a big bar. Tectus niloticus, so it's the one who's looked for men in this area. This is a species that is highly commercial, that you will find many shells of this being sold for tourism. Turbo, it's found here, so we look for it with knife to dislodge the shell. And tridagna and all these big clam shells are found also in this area. Some of them are inside and are bigger, but so many of them are also in this area. Strategies, well, woman has to walk, they have to walk slowly, because if you walk too fast, this shell will close and it will be almost impossible to see it. So the woman, when I see them, they walk very slowly. They observe really good what's going on the ocean. This makes them to have accurate knowledge of environment, but also of behavior of species. As you see, this woman was fishing with the children. It's an activity that the responsibilities of women imply that they have to go with their children to fish, and it's not easy task. So she was fishing. I think I have the and she was looking for octopus. I have another picture. This is one of my favorite pictures because it shows how is the position of the body and the difficulty to be carrying a little girl at the same time that you are fishing. So as I say, kids are highly involved in these fisheries, and they will like move rocks and look behind and go all throughout the littoral looking and looking, and they also bring food to the house. So this is an important activity and an important resource, nutritional resource for kids and women, also for men for sure, but they are very implicated. I like this picture because you can see the position of the body while collecting shells. And what was amazing, it was that here, once in a while, a big wave came, and this lady had to jump and put herself up in the rock. And when the wave went down, rapidly she came back and she did again the look for the shells. So it was a risky, very risky collecting. Here we go to harvesting crabs. So this is a woman who walks around and she focuses in little holes and trying to look where might be the house of this crab. And sometimes I didn't even notice that there was a crab inside, and very quickly they were aware that something was going on in there, and that was quite impressive. So kids are also involved, as I said, not only little girls, but little boys. And something that was very amazing to see was that this kid was catching the crab and he was eating it in the locality. It was not taken home, it was not cooked, it was just for eating in the place. So I was quite impressed by that. And also I was happy to know that this resource is so important for the nutrition, for providing proteins to kids, and the kids are able to look for that. That was very interesting. They have also lots of knowledge, and they target not the same species as adults. Sometimes they target different species. This woman was in the morning. It was like 6:30 in the morning. It was the sandy beach, and I saw her like in this position looking for something, and I ran to her to see what she was looking for. And actually she was looking for this worm, and she was using a sort of a stick which she put inside the sand, and she was able to know where was the specific hole, where was this sea worm, and how to get it out. I mean, I could walk for ages and never find one, but she was able to do it. After that, I thought she was gonna eat it directly, and no, she actually put this to go and fish, and actually all was a process just to get some fish. So it was amazing how marine invertebrate fisheries also are involved in also help to catch fish. This is sea urchin. So in sea urchins, what is quite impressive in this locality is here we have thermal waters. I rarely see thermal waters exactly going out in the rocks, but that was the case here. So it was the rocks. She was collecting here the sea urchins, and then she came and she cooked the sea urchins here, and she ate. And some of them brought a dish and took out the shell, the skin of the sea urchin in this locality, and brought already the cooked food to the house. You can see also here shells, and with the impact that had been broken and eaten. So I asked them why. Well, because it was delicious, first, the taste of cooking it in the thermal water, but also it's not to bring all these little spines to the house, all these all this waste, let's say. I'm sure that many of you have heard about the Nyale fisheries in Lombok. Well, this happened also in Timor. And what is interesting is that the Nyale, what we see here, the sea worm, the fishery of the sea worm, it's a worm that during the reproduction time breaks this part, which is the male and the female part, which will afterwards fecundate in the water. And this is actually the part that we look for eating. This activity happens once a year during 2 hours, and it's extremely important fishery in a specific time of the year, which they must have a specific knowledge about the position of the stars, the position of the tide, and the localities where they come out. This comes along with singing, and it brings lots of people in the water. I counted more than 5,000 people in the locality where I was working in East Timor. And I read that in Lombok, it can bring in up to 30,000 people. It's a major fishery that happens once a year in a specific phase of the moon. So this is what the Nyale looks, the palolo worm looks. And it's actually delicious. We eat it with lemon and onion, and it's quite good. There are now 2 different types of fisheries that are being active. The traditional one and the more, let's say, modern one. In the traditional one, we use mostly light, fire. We sing songs. It's a cultural activity, while the modern activity uses speakers. It might be some drinking of alcohol, a lot of noise. So the 2 activities are superposing and are creating conflicts between these 2 ways of approaching the ocean. And for my last presentation of my last, my last example, I'll show to you the activity of how shells are used after they are used for food. So here, this is an island in New Ireland. This is in the north of Papua New Guinea. And all that you see here, all this part that you see here is mangroves. And in this little part is the houses. And all this is coral reefs. So this community has not many places to live, but has a lot of place to fish and a lot of resources. When I went there, I started finding these shells accumulations, as I talked to you in the beginning of my presentation. And what was amazing was that at the beginning, I didn't know what they meant. I thought from an archaeological perspective, they were very interesting to know what people was using for the past. But I saw that these uses of shells was very specific. And this lady told me that this brings good luck, and in the past was used to make the enemies go away. So when the people eat the shells, they don't throw the shell everywhere. They have specific localities to throw the shells, and actually they have also specific shells that will be thrown here, specific shells that will be thrown in the water, specific shells that will be thrown in the coastal area. And this is what we could call ecological engineering of the coast. These shells that are thrown here in the mangrove are in order to gain soil, in order to gain a space from the mangrove to make houses, to make another type of habitat here. It becomes big. So there are big deposits. These shells that are thrown here, we will see, I'll show you, I have a detail of each one. So as you see, this place are shells. They are protecting from erosion for this house. She's advancing her house with shells in this area. Here and here, also, you have types of shells that are thrown, and here also type of shells that are thrown, and here in the back, another type of shells that are thrown. And you see, the mangrove is right here. So they throw this, the shell that is thrown here, the lady told me, so when the water comes up, it brings soil with it, where the water goes down, and after that, the sun hits, and the soil with the shells start forming a soil that allows another type of vegetation come on top of that. Here, let me show you. So here, you see, we have three spaces that are showing where they throw the shells. And what you see that mangroves are growing here. So when I asked them, why do you throw the shells here? They told me two things. Let's go back to this picture. Two important things here. We throw the shells here because first, they make that the mangrove establish. And secondly, because the little flesh that stays within the shell attracts little fish. It provides an habitat for little fish. And if it provides habitat for little fish, it will bring bigger fish to look for the little fish. So we will have bigger fish looking for fish in our place. So this is wonderful. This is ecological engineering. It's nature-based solutions used with local and traditional knowledge. So let's go for this. Linking local and scientific knowledge. So what people can tell about their localities? What people can tell about ecology? What people with local knowledge, people who interact in every day, people who goes to look for food in the mangrove, have to know to be good fishermen? Let's say that if I'm wrong as a scientist, it will not affect my dish. It might affect a publication, but it will not really affect what I eat every day. For local communities, if they are wrong in the way they assess coast, in the way they assess, in the way they interact with the ocean, in the way they know which species is where, and the dynamics that happens, this affects what they have, what they can be put in the table. So this has major issues for them to have accurate knowledge of a species behavior, of associations, of styles, lifestyles, of population dynamics, of species, which species is in what time of the year, of the ecological history of the place, about coastal change, about erosion, about who is going where and who is fishing what. Because, for instance, when you fish shells, you know that you don't want to go the day after to a place where another woman was fishing Bibles, because Bibles cannot renew from one day to another. So they need to know who is fishing where and what. To say, oh, tomorrow I'm not going to that place. Maria went, so maybe I go to another place. They know about vulnerability. They know about what species are being, that this vulnerability is linked with population dynamics. So they know what species are less in the locality, and they know ways of adapting. But local people don't know everything. I mean, I'm not romanticizing all the knowledge neither. And I'm not saying that scientific knowledge is no. I'm saying that scientific and local knowledge need to be work together and complemented. And we have to look at these people not only as informants, but people who need to be involved in all the process of the project, from the implementation, even from the conception of the project. What are we gonna study in this locality? So this is why we have to go and interact with them even before our project starts. Well, what people don't know? Well, they don't know what is microplastics inside of this species, what type of heavy metals are inside, ocean acidification, what can tell a shell about the age of a deposit, of a climate event in the past or local event. And shells tell this. So integrating local, for instance, with mollusk species is extremely interesting to assess changes in coastal in coastal environments. Not only change, but dynamics. And this has to deal also not only with linking local and scientific knowledge, but in our research center, in BRIN, in France, we need to make more links between our disciplines. We cannot stay ecology and ethnoecology away. We have to interact as scientists. We have to interact with archaeology, with biochemistry, with fisheries, in geography. And all this type of interaction could go even beyond interdisciplinarity to go to transdisciplinarity while linking local people in the action of implementing projects, of conception of projects, or in responding what they really need. So just to end, I would say that marine invertebrate small-scale fisheries play a key role today in food and nutrition security and as a source of income for coastal communities, not only in Indonesia, not only in Timor-Leste, not only in Papua New Guinea, but this is a world important source of food. In Colombia, my country, South America, this is a very important source of food. In East Africa, in Mozambique, in Madagascar, we are talking about a worldwide fishery carried in coastal localities that need to be secure, sustainable, and for that we have to to make research in this. And I invite any one of you who like this approach to contact me, because I'm really looking forward to research in Indonesia. This type of small-scale fisheries remain a historically underinvested area of fisheries research. As I say, we are focusing on main fisheries. We are focusing mostly on fish. We are focusing on commercial fisheries, and we are leaving behind all these little marine invertebrates that play an important role, and we are letting behind also the contribution of women into these fisheries. Actually, we have to know that marine invertebrate species are extremely vulnerable to climate change, to pollution, and to overharvesting. I have presented to you the specificity of how some shells can live in one place and not in other. So any changes in coastal areas will affect the sustainability and the availability of these species. But anyways, these fisheries challenge systematic assessment. Why? Because when we go to talk with women, we ask them, "Are you a fisherman? Are you a fisher lady?" And most of them will say, "No, I'm not a fisherwoman. I live in the house. And I walk and collect shells," because we don't have the vocabulary. We don't. You see in Mentawai how they were specific, even for a technique, to have a specific term to one technique of a specific technique for one species. So this, we don't have it. When we do research, when we go to do fisheries assessment for the Ministry of Fisheries, we have some reports, notes, and actually we don't have the couches to say, okay, this woman is not a fisherwoman, she's a Meti woman, like they call it in Timor, Meti. So people identify as Meti, they do Meti, but they don't fish. So again, invisibility of marine invertebrate fisheries and women's contribution to food security, nutrition, household income, and to national economy and growth. These are, again, all the professors I have interact in all those wonderful localities in Timor, in Indonesia, in Papua New Guinea. So I hope you like the presentation, and I'm open for any question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ariadna, for your insightful and very interesting presentation. Before we begin our discussion, we will have a photo session prepared by the committee. So please, everyone, you can open your camera and give your best smile. How many slides, Mbak Wigut? Mbak Lutfi?
5 slides.
Okay, we
5
have
slides.
five slides. So please, if you can open your camera, we will begin now. First slide. Mbak Lutfi, ready?
Miss Lutfi.
Yes.
Yeah.
Second slide.
Okay, second slide. Okay, third slide. Fourth slide. Please open your camera. Fifth slide. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We have taken all of the slides. Ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu sekalian, now we will have a discussion session. If you have any question to our guest speaker today, Dr. Ariadna, you can use raise hand feature, or you can write your question in the chat, and I will read the questions. We have our first, Pak Yohanes, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bu Sri, for allowing me to thank you very much, Prof. Ariadna. I'm really enjoy with your presentation. It's interesting for me. And as I come from Timor Island, it's look like I'm, involved in this kind of your presentations. But one thing I'm really interesting for this presentation is how can we relate this kind of indigenous knowledge, and how can we preserve that? It's very important. I think we can discuss. And also, sorry, my background actually more on agriculture. So I agree with you when we ask the people, local people, the coastal line. Sometimes, are you a farmer or fisherman? It's difficult for them to ask, because sometimes they are farmers, but sometimes they are fishermen. Independent decisions. So, as my background from the agriculture, maybe I try to relate this kind of knowledge with the the existing of local culture related to traditional farming. I just mentioned one, maybe what you mentioned about the seaworm. It's really important invertebrates that related to the way the local farmers predict the harvest season in the coming season. I think you know also that what the traditional festival in Sumba, what they call it Pasola. So actually the basic is coming from this seaworm, to predict that all this it's abundant worm, or it's the next harvest season will be good. And that's the strategy for them to prepare how kind of the crop they plant, etc., like that. So do you see any kind of related also related to others invertebrates? Because as I say that sometimes as a farmer, they can adjust this kind of knowledge from the sea to implement the way they conduct the traditional farming. Thank you very much, Adiana. It's maybe not really related to what you present, but I'm really interested to know more about it from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Papa. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for your
Much more.
question. Yes, I just wanted to highlight that we have sometimes focus too much into conservation, ecological, of biological components, and not conservation and preservation of cultural components. So that's where we have to start making links. How can we preserve as well as biological resources? How can we preserve also local knowledge, local practices, and defend them from only an ecological regard where, just to say something, we have to be careful with marine protected areas. Sometimes marine protected areas develop in a way that they don't take in account local knowledge, they don't take in account the needs of local people, and they don't take in account the practices and the importance of women's fisheries. Sometimes this affects what I've seen in Timor is that these areas affect mostly the possibility of women to go fishing because they fish just in front of the house while the men fish outside. And these marine protected areas are mostly in front of the house. So we have to do marine protected areas, but with the thinking about how can we also preserve cultural knowledge, local practices, and interest also into nutrition. We cannot say you cannot take anything from here if that comes to not being able the people to eat. Have to find an equilibrium. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ariadna. Pak Yohanes, is that enough? Or maybe you want to ask more? Please unmute your microphone.
Because we are coming from the small islands in East Nusa Tenggara, for example, and also a southern part of the Sulawesi. This is small islands that actually they are really dependent. They really depend on the resources from the coastline, resources from the inland. So they have both knowledge related to the sea and the farming. Sometimes when we are going to preserve that knowledge related from the sea, this is what I see so far is more for tourist attraction, not really for to preserve the local knowledge for the local people. So what in the intervention what we did so far, what I see it's for me it's really for tourist attraction, not really to preserve its local knowledge for the community, and then the way they can preserve their local strategy, particularly for the upland farms. That's what I'm thinking, but sorry if not really connect with what you represent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Yohanes, for your question, and Dr. Ariadna for your answer. We have our next question from Bu Rini Rahmania. Please, Bu Rini.
Thank you, Bu Sri En. Bonjour Ariadna. Merci beaucoup pour partager votre expérience et diapo. Ils sont magnifiques et très intéressants. Based on your observation, do you find some species of marine invertebrate, both bivalve or gastropods, that we can use as a bioindicator to indicate whether their habitat or local environment has been degraded or polluted by any kind of heavy metal, as these species can absorb and store heavy metal ingredients in their tissue? If so, do you have some recommendation to restore the condition by using ecological approach and local wisdom knowledge. Hence, most of the time, we have a conflict between sustainable use and profit-oriented. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I think the best species to be bioindicators mostly are bivalves, more than gastropods, because gastropods move around, while bivalves are specific to one locality, to one environment, and we can ask this in two levels: on the ground, buried on the ground. So I would say I would go. One of the species that I think would be very interesting is Asaphis violacens, because it's not too deep down, it's in between, and it doesn't move much. It moves a little bit, but not too much. And the other one that we were thinking about doing some research. I have not just go through the part of bioindicators, the use of species as bioindicators in the context of heavy metal pollution or microplastic, but I think this is a very good avenue for research in Indonesia. And I would say that oysters, maybe also from the mangrove, would be interesting to work on indication. I would say oysters because, well, we find them everywhere in Indonesia, so we can make comparison from one locality to the other, from mangroves that are heavily polluted to mangroves that are less impacted. So that could provide us some type of comparison. And I would say that to link local knowledge would be mostly in perception of pollution. Because, for instance, maybe local people are not aware that heavy metals are in there. And this is a sort of invisible contamination that takes time for the people to eat the shell and to feel bad or to have an illness. Different from viruses and parasites, when you eat directly, next day you're sick and you can feel it. But the other type of invisible pollution is less sensible to time, so it takes more time. So there's where links can be done also about perception of pollution, mining, what are the sources of pollution around, and introducing scientific assessment and surveys of these species. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ariadna, for your answer. Bu Rini, do you have any more question or comments?
Thank you, Ariadna. I hope that we can collaborate after this, because our research group is developing research on that subject, the bioindicator one. J'espère on peut discuter plus loin hors de cette session. Merci. Terima kasih, Bu En.
Terima kasih. Thank you, Bu Rini, for your question. Next one we have Mr. Budi, Pak Budi.
Ya, terima kasih Bu En atas kesempatannya. Thank you, Dr. Ariadna, for your lovely presentation. I think I don't only like your presentation, but really enjoy the way you tell us about the situation, about your experience, and also the drawing of your pictures in presentation. Maybe my first question is who drew those pictures? Because for me, it's really rare to see the presentation combined with the drawing. Usually with photos, yes, but with drawing that really incorporated with the theme of your presentation is, I really enjoy that those pictures. My question is more first is to the, maybe, I don't know, I missed the information or not, but in the beginning you said that this is not for commercial, usually for maybe local consume or household. But at the end, you said that this is also as a additional income. So how you relate those information. The second one is I enjoy the photos of the boys, and also when you said about the ladies with machete can identify the shells by only knocking the ground. So and also the boy is when you said that they can eat without cooking. So I think the way they practice this, it is based on the information or knowledge from maybe from the old days, or maybe from other information. So my question is, how if you observe about the transform of knowledge among them, from older generation, from young to younger generation, or maybe they also take another information or knowledge from other information. And also, like when you said about they throw out the shells in certain places, and when you ask them, they can explain. For me, it's also there is a scientific information, like I can invite little fish and then bigger fish. That's a kind of not only simple knowledge, but already higher information or higher knowledge. How do you observe this kind of transform of information among them? That's all, Ariadna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abba.
Please, Dr. Ariadna, please.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Thank you very much. So yeah, let's start for the drawings. It's not me who do it, actually. It's me, my head, with a drawer. I have worked with 3 different persons who draw, who had never been in Indonesia, who had never seen these activities. So what I do is I started working with drawings because with a picture, I could not explain what was happening with the feet inside the mud. So I said, I need to be able to tell the story with some drawings. And so that was when I started to make the drawings and collaborated, and I started explaining, and she does like this with the feet, or she does like this with the feet. So it was a very cooperative collaboration into making the drawing. Is my conception. I have the conception of the drawing, and I find some support from expert people who draws here in the Museum of Natural History, where I have this facility. My drawings are terrible, but I do some like little drawings, and they share with them. So it has been very, very useful also to share this knowledge, not only with the scientific community, but with the general public. So I highly recommend the approach.
Yeah, excellent.
For the commercial aspects. Okay. Yes, some of there's a big commercial aspect of marine invertebrates that you will find, like shrimps, big shrimps, lobsters, mangrove crabs, and other types, and shells that are sold, as they say, as for tourism. Indeed, for me, when I go to the field, sometimes it's very difficult, mostly in Timor-Leste, to see what was the part of the catch that was going for selling, but I saw it was mostly octopus. And crabs were not as much sold as in Indonesia, in Siberut, in the mangrove of Siberut. Indeed, shells, most of the shells I saw, it was for food purposes, and some of the shells that are used for, because are very beautiful to sell to tourists, actually they are not used for edible purposes. So this is a very interesting project also to develop in Indonesia, in which we can, what's the part of this fishery that goes to commercial fisheries, and what's the part that goes to nutrition, and what is the part that goes to commercial fish, to commercial aspects for edible purposes for food, and what's the part that goes for tourism and collectioners industry. So this is also something that is not, I cannot provide numbers at this stage of my research, but it's something that I'm looking forward to go for this type of information. And the last question regarding the transmission of knowledge in between generations. What I've seen and what worries me a lot is the fact that most of the kids have to go to schools which are not located in their own villages. So there's a rupture with the interaction of the sea, with being able to to fish in an everyday basis, because our system, our global system, is changing, and we have to adapt to these new forms of education. Indeed, I see that the children enjoy a lot being in the ocean, and most of them didn't want to go to school. They wanted to stay with the father fishing and going, and so they also have this in the heart because they have seen it from their parents. And I see that they when they come back the weekend from the school, they go because they want to fish. So that the transmission of knowledge happens not only from intergenerational, from father to mother, but in groups of kids who go by themselves to fish, to cook. I've seen children 6 years old around the fire, and they are cooking what they have just catch. And I'm like, wow, this is highly amazing that they are able to find the resource for eating, to cook it also. So yeah, that's mostly what I can say about that. So many avenues of research about these approaches.
Thank you, Dr. Ariadna. Pak Budi, maybe you have comments?
Masih ada sedikit.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, thanks, Ariadna, for your explanation. And I think my last question is, did you find any written, it's very rare, I think, in the village to see if people like want to document it in written form, or maybe there is local stories that telling them about the culture, the local culture about eating or shells or other things from the ocean or from their beach or for their surroundings. Thank you.
In a written form, rarely seen if it's not brought by outsiders, the interest of writing down their knowledge. The knowledge passes through songs, through poems, through proverbs, to other types of forms of passing the information. But in Timor, we did a work about writing down local knowledge, mostly about mythology of the island. But this generates also conflicts because some sukus, some clans didn't say, oh no, this is not the right version. So you are writing down a wrong version and the others say, no, this is the right version. So it was just a conflict of mythology on the island. Indeed, what I'm doing now, and I haven't talked much about that, but it's something that has been a big work in my research, is making a collection of species and leaving those collections of shells in the different schools where I go, so kids can be able to keep on head the local name of the species. Because sometimes local names of species are losing, and now they're calling one species the same. And before, the grandmother and grandfather had specific names for many, many different species. So we have to preserve this knowledge.
Very great job, Ariadna. Thank you for the explanation.
Thank you, Pak Bugi, for your question, and Dr. Ariadna for your comment also. Next, we will have Mr. Manuel, who has raised his hand. Please.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning, Ariadna. So my name is Manuel Boissier. I'm a researcher from CIRAD. and I worked a bit in Indonesia before. I completely agree with Babugi. I really enjoy your presentation, and I agree that the drawings and the photo, the mix with them makes it very alive and very interesting. So thank you for that. My question relates to my interest. So I'm interested these days on the power relationship regarding environmental management, especially in mangrove, and inclusiveness in mangrove management. So what you explained from Siberut, for example, is really interesting because it proves that women, the mangrove are the area of women. So this is where they walk, this is where they go, where they fish, where they collect shell. I would like to understand and to know your point about to what extent is it the place of women, and for example, if there are any decisions that need to be made about this mangrove for conservation or else, are the women still part of this decision, or is it the men's decision? When all this shell collection is really like for local consumption, but if one day it becomes something more economic value, do you think that there is a risk that the men take over because it becomes profitable? As long as it is not profitable, men let the mangrove to women. Basically, this is something I noticed in Papua a lot in some coastal societies. But at the minute there is some power involved, meaning like we need to make a decision whether we put it under a SASI or we make money out of a mangrove and the men take over. Is it something that is a risk that you identify for Siberut as well or not? Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Pamanu, for the question. Actually, in Mentawai, women were able to talk when they were in groups of clans. It depends the size of the group where they are able to express and who is in there. I felt that women were able to express themselves, but the men had more power on decision making than women did. Woman could influence what the husband was gonna say, but not in the group, in the house, in the house while eating, another ways of influencing men's decision. But it was a men's decision. Administration of the village was mainly carried by men and not by women. So the local administrator, the head of the village, everything was men. So women might not really have a real voice in decisions, and for that I would say that we need to make sometimes focal groups in where women are by themselves. I found that they express themselves better, woman between woman, that woman in groups where there are men and there are hierarchies already set up into the village. Also, another thing is that sometimes I feel that external pressure from NGOs who are looking for conservation have a lot of power on decision making at the community level, and sometimes by stepping on top of community level wellness, well-being, and knowledge, just because there's a project, there's money behind, and we need to put the project down, and inclusion and participation remains just as a fact of we are participating because woman is bringing knowledge. They are collecting data, but they collect data regarding what we want them to collect the data on. So this is kind of inclusion is still in the first steps of we are not instrumentalizing local people to give information, but how to really include and provide good spaces for people feel in confidence to express themselves. And sometimes for women, these spaces are by themselves, in between women. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ariadna. Mr. Manuel, you have more comments, or is that enough for you?
No, I just a very tiny thing. There is like we can say that knowledge is power. So the woman knowledge can be like the intimate knowledge of a mangrove can be a form of power that they find a way to exert, to implement, to have against like the entire society in the village. Is it knowledge that is shared by the men the same way, or is just the woman who has that knowledge of all these different types of shell and their ecology and the way to manage them and to collect them?
I think it's not like a secret knowledge. I mean, the difference is that the women have the practice for collecting the shell that the men do not have because of experimental work in the extraction of the shell. So they have another type of knowledge that it's related more to the technique and not only to the knowledge of behavior in habitats. I found that the men had good knowledge about the distribution of species, the behavior of species too, but less knowledge about the technique in certain needs. Yeah, but I think it's not like, and this I think is because when they are children, men are highly involved in these fisheries too. But when they grow, they start differentiating from going to another type of fisheries, but some of the knowledge remains. So they know where the species are, but they forget, yeah, the techniques, the know-how.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ariadna. Mr. Manuel, I think that's enough. Thank you for your question. And next we have Pak Agus Tampu Bolon. Please, Bapak.
Good afternoon, everybody, and good morning, Dr. Ariadna. It's nice presentation, your presentation this afternoon. I think I still remember when I organized your meeting, your presentation in Bogor, in Gunung Batu, a long time ago. Also talking about the mangrove ecosystem and mangrove taxonomy. It was very useful for our institution at the time, and now we use that your knowledge. To continue the Dr. Manson's comment, it was surprising that the roles of women in Mentawai is dominant compared to the two study areas in East Timor and Papua New Guinea. For maintaining the local knowledge and local wise, I think your dissertation is very important to formalize basic knowledge into formal knowledge. I think that's the bridge of your dissertation, to make it local knowledge into scientific knowledge from the anthropological study in Mentawai. That's very important breakthrough of your study in mangrove. And I am just curious that to continue the Dr. Manson's, maybe briefly you can maybe explain the roles of men in terms of equity in the managing and conserving mangrove forest in the Mentawai in the Siberut forest, because as you know that the roles of people in every mangrove ecosystem is bit different, like in as you is so as the in East Timor and Papua New Guinea, and also let's say in Asian, like in southern Thailand, when I was there to visit this ecological knowledge and ecological wisdom to conserve the fish and crabs. But here in your study, a lot about the bivalva and gastropods in southern Thailand. this much more in practice in fishing and also catching the crabs, how they conserve it and how to maintain it in sustainable ways. And also, what is the role of the external NGOs and government, and also effective leadership to make it harmonize between the parties in the southern Thailand. In Larut Matang, Malaysia, they use mangrove resources to make it charcoal in a sustainable way, and also to conserve and rehabilitate the degraded mangrove through planting the mangrove species in the Larut Matang. So I think this is very important to compare the study in many places, especially in Asian countries. I think, but more or less that in Mentawai and Siberut, I think very interesting from the anthropological point of view, Ariadna, Dr. Ariadna. My question is there still a knowledge gap if you link tacit knowledge with the scientific knowledge, in which each part of the knowledge is less studied? Let's say in the institutional, maybe in the decision-making process or whatever. Maybe you can explain, you can give more information from your study, from your experience, in which it's part of study that in the scientific knowledge is we have to study more in terms of more than just like socio or anthropological study. This thing is very important. And the second, maybe to link the scientific knowledge and local knowledge, we realize that the interface among the coastal communities, mangrove and seascape in managing and conserving mangrove as an interface of landscape and seascape. I think mangrove is very important ecosystem for interfacing the landscape and seascape. I think this way to know the component or the interlink among them communities, coastal communities, mangroves, and seascape, and of course communities as a lifescape. Maybe thank you very much, Dr. Ariadna. Long time we didn't see you. I remember still when we talk about your presentation in Bogor long time ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pa Agus. Thank you very much for all the remarks. I would say that I have noted some of the information and questions you mentioned about the role of men. So the role of men very centered in the mangrove, related to the mangrove, centered into taking wood for construction wood, and taking wood for fire. But mostly the firewood was from the woman, while the construction wood was cut by the men. Indeed, in Siberut Island and in this mangrove, there was ownership of the mangroves. So no, you cannot go there and cut a tree if you didn't request a specific land, which was the owner of the mangrove, the possibility to cut the tree. Woman had the right to use the entire resources, fish, and look for shells. But the trees were another type of property rights, had another type of property rights in which men were involved, in which men had decision a lot. Men were involved in building the canoes, the little boats that the woman used. That was the role of men also. Men were more involved in agriculture, much more involved in agriculture, and in the raising of breeding of pigs, a lot of pigs over there. Something important that happen, and it's related to men and to the questions Pamanu made before, is that during long time, there was a shell called Anadara granosa, big one, very hermetic shell. So important because shells have something. The people cannot take more shells that they can consume because shells expire very quickly. Very quickly, they spoil. And they don't have means of conservation, as you were saying, transport or cold chains to do that. Indeed, that's a little bit good in the fact that they don't have the way, they don't take more than they can, and they don't, because they don't have the means to conserve it and preserve it and to extract it out from the locality. This shell that I was saying about, Anadara granosa, a Chinese company came and requested the people specifically for this shell in Siberut Island. Well, in 4 months, there were not more this shell. The shell was completely, the stock was completely down. Men were involved in the fishery. So men and women went fishing and fishing and fishing, and they take so much out, this shell, that grow slowly, that need time to renew. And the shell was out because this shell was hermetic, was very strong, and could stay out of the water alive for more than 3 days. So it was the only shell that could travel easily out of the locality. And this shell, the stock of the shell finished. There's no more this shell in the locality. So that's mostly the part of the transport. And regarding knowledge gap, I think we have to find more knowledge about nutrition, health, commercial and importance of these shells, but also not only a gap into the local knowledge or the way that we study local knowledge. I think we have the tools to study local knowledge, but it's how we manage the data. If we produce so much data from one locality to the other, how can we make good comparison between the mangrove of Siberut and Lombok? How do we know the species that are, so we need to improve with communication. And now we have the tools also with networks and all these, so yeah, how can we make tools that link local knowledge and scientific knowledge, but that can be comparative from one way to another, because sometimes local knowledge is very site-specific. Even though they have a lot of knowledge about environment, and it's very site-specific. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ariadna, for your answer. Pak Agus Tampi Bolong, do you have more comments, or is that enough?
It's enough.
Okay, thank you for your question and comments. Next, we have Abu Husna from Research Center of Fishery. Please, Bu Husna. Please unmute your microphone.
Yeah, there is this presentation is a new knowledge for me, since I work mostly in inland fisheries, but sometimes I work also in the coastal area, especially in estuary related to the mangrove also. But from your presentation, it is very nice, but lot of knowledge that I can get from your presentation. But I would like to know, and maybe you can share your experience, that from the slide that you present, most of the area is remote area. And also the population is not so dense. And also the culture may be quite different with the eastern part and the western part of Indonesia. So I think, could you please share your experience? What is the difference when you link the scientific and then local knowledge for the management of the conservation area within a very crowded area and also not so dense population area? So this is maybe, and also from the cultural point of view, maybe that's a big difference. The second one, I think a lot of time that you spend to get a lot of data. And then I would like to know that from your study that you do it by qualitative and quantitatively, because most of your slide talking about qualitative information, but not much quantitative, that we will really know that it will affect the organism. You mostly working with the biodiversity, but not the density. So I think maybe there's only two questions that I would like you to share with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivo Husna. Thank you very much for your question. Yes. So let's start by the first question. It's true that all these localities that I showed to you are quite remote localities, are indigenous people, are people who speak indigenous languages, and which are sometimes not accessible by public transport, so hard to get there. Indeed, this keep the locality smaller, communication is better, but making relationships of trust with the community take a lot of time. I've seen people, I mean, for instance, in Mentawai, it took me quite a time to be able to be accepted in the community. One thing that made me be accepted in the community was the fact that I was able to get the shells that were very deep down in the mud. So I was not more the white girl in the village, but I was the white one who knew how to look that type of shell. And that's the way they presented me throughout the community, because this shell gave me some sort of prestigious status because I was able to do the work of the woman. So in these localities where we have to make really relationships of trust to be able to have influence in management decisions, I would say that for the moment, in my research, I am exploring knowledge and in management. I see the way they manage, but I haven't come with an NGO to establish a management plan in the locality, because I've been careful enough to, I don't want people in the locality to see me as somebody who is judging them and making decisions for them. So it's more accompanying, going with them through the process and to find their information. I think you're right. Completely different context would be in a big populated area. And I haven't worked in those localities. I haven't been able to work in a very complex populated area, but mostly in little localities. And regarding qualitative and quantitative work, my presentation was focused most into qualitative information. But during my work in Timor-Leste, I have just moved down to make more quantitative research. So for instance, catch per unit effort. So contabilizing, quantifying what species are taking, the abundance of the species being taken, making census about how many people fish, and more questions about that give numbers. Indeed, I am in the analysis of this data and not yet providing the results. But now, yes, the importance of combining qualitative and quantitative data. And one question for you, in inland fisheries, do you see marine invertebrates being catch or mostly focused into fish?
Yeah, since most of my research working in inland water, especially in large river estuary, so actually not much. They only catch the crab, but not other species.
Okay.
Only for the inland in the river actually, they only catch, I don't know the name of that's a very like a bivalve. It's a kind of the small one. That's one that most of them, they catch it both in the river and also in the lake. It's like that.
Okay.
But it's not really a fisheries. It's
Yes,
not really. It's only it's only what you call it? It's not really the main target of the fisheries for the macro tubercles.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Bu Husna, for
Any-
your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ariadna, for your answer. Because we have no more participants who raise their hand, we would like to read the question from the chat. Mbak Lutfi, do we have any questions from the chat session?
There are no questions in the chat box.
Okay. So we have no question in the chat box, unfortunately. I think, but we have so many questions directly from the raise hand feature. So I think
I have one question here from he didn't share. It was a direct message, but
Okay.
I will just read to you. Do you have
Okay,
any?
please.
Yeah. Do you have any experience studying local knowledge of invertebrates, particularly seaworms, as part of the indigenous knowledge of local people in Asia-Oceania in predicting climate change or weather conditions that might affect agricultural production? This is very interesting. Just to finish with this question, is because actually most of there's a big relationship between the fishery of the sea worm and the organization of agricultural activities in Timor-Leste. But I have not really worked on that exactly subject, but I would very highly advise to see a little bit the work that did Edmond Duñas on ethnoclimatology and biomarkers. So biomarkers from climate is when the people say, oh, you know, when this flower blooms is the time when the well is gonna come, the well, the fish is gonna come, and when the well is gonna come, it's because the rain will come in 2 or 3 weeks. So it's a relationship between knowledge that you think don't have anything to do one with another, but it's a connection of all of those. And so there are links to in deep into climate change and local knowledge, biomarkers, biotemporal markers. Thank you. I think that's all.
Thank you very much for your answer, Dr. Ariadna. Ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu sekalian, we have followed all of our agenda today, and because we have no more questions from the participants, I think I would like to maybe summarize this expert talk today. So thank you very much, Dr. Ariadna. Today we have learned that in Indonesia, we can find so many local knowledge, especially the one in Siberut Island. It's very interesting that women not only know about the technique to catch the shellfish, but they have like such a dancing technique with their feet. That's very interesting. And they also know not only the name of the shell, but also the locality place where the shell is located. And then we also today learned that in Timor-Leste, they have like traditional knowledge, not only for the elderly, but also children there use it for catching the invertebrates. I really like the parts where the kids are eating the crabs directly from the ocean. That was very interesting one. And I think the knowledge needs to be like transferred continuously to practice such kind of local knowledge. And then also it's very interesting when you did your project in Papua New Guinea, where the community know how to use the shell for protecting their own place by collecting the shell, and in the ocean it will create new habitat for the fish, and then eventually the bigger fish will come. And also I think it is a kind of protection from the waves. When bigger waves, they can break the waves, so it is protecting their communities and their place. I think it's that's why summarized, but I hope everyone will gain a new insight and knowledge from this session. Once again, thank you very much. On behalf of the committee, I would like to say thank you for our committee, Dr. Ariadna, and maybe we will have a kind of appreciation for you from the committee. We will have like a certificate. Mbak Lutfi? Yeah, this is our appreciation for you. So this certificate proudly presented to Dr. Ariadna Burgos as our guest speaker for the expert talk today. Thank you very much for your interesting talk. And also thank you very much for all participants who have attended this event and actively participate in the question and comment section. I hope that we can gain new knowledge, and maybe we will have new collaboration between Dr. Ariadna and also Research Center for Ecology and Ethnobiology. I will end this session today. I hope I can see you again in the next event. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Yes, Mbak Wika.
yeah. Miss Ariadna, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.